Hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Bastion Roundtable. Today's guest is Hassan Mirza, CEO of Lagrange.AI. Thanks for coming on, Hassan. How are you?
Thank you. Morning, Tony. Yeah, it's always great chatting with you, and thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem at all. So look, COVID-19, the pandemic has posed significant challenges for supply chains globally and exposed many points of disconnection among existing supply chains. That brought to light supply chain vulnerabilities and of course forced major companies to focus on supply chain digitization to improve visibility and resiliency of their supply chain. According to a recent EY survey, end-to-end supply chain visibility is the #1 priority for executives, but about only 6% of respondents are very confident in their capability to achieve supply chain visibility. Why is there such a huge gap between awareness and capability? I think that's what we're here to talk about today with Hassan. I wanted to bring you on today, Hassan, to talk about this unique insight into the problems from the first-hand experience that you and hear the new technologies and concepts you're working on at Lagrange.AI as a bespoke solution to empower supply chain professionals against these challenges in supply chain analytics. So let's start with the shifting trends within the industry from more traditional methods towards increased visibility and resiliency that we've seen over the last few years, and especially COVID-19 and other global crises. We'd love to hear some of your thoughts, Hassan. Why do you think there's been such a shift in focus for organizations towards more digitization and utilization of digital capabilities such as digital twins?
Sure. I mean, to understand the reason behind such kind of shift or trend, the best is to start understanding the trend. I mean, what is supply chain digital twin? Because we know that lots of companies, lots of people are talking about supply chain digital twin, but what supply chain digital twin really is. So I would say that there are two main or major components for the supply chain digital twin. First is a detailed simulation model, and the second is real-time data or real-time data connectivity. So we are talking about the simulation model, which covers both network and operational level, and at the same time also using real-time data for analysis. So what are the benefits for such kind of digital replica of the physical supply chain? Once you have such kind of digital replica, you can identify the bottlenecks, which is important for companies. And also you can test the solutions in a risk-free environment. So those are really what the companies need during the disruption. So once a disruption happening, it's all about the sensing and responding. So it's about to identify the impact of the disruption and also find a solution to mitigate the negative impact of that disruption. So now you can see that how aligned are the benefit of the supply chain digital twin with the needs of the companies during the disruption. And once such disruption or huge disruption happen like COVID-19, that's normal that we see that creating such kind of trend toward the supply chain digital twin.
Right. Okay. No, that makes sense. And from your experience, what have been some of the key limitations and challenges traditional supply chains have faced when, going through that transition to being more digitized?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, if the solution is that obvious, so why still companies are struggling to achieve such kind of supply chain digital twin?
Yeah.
So based on what I experienced by working on supply chain digitization projects, I would categorize the challenges in two main groups. So first challenge is the data related issues or challenge. And the second type are the resource related challenges. So examples for the data related challenges are, I mean, once you're working for the supply chain digitization, you're dealing with fragmented data. Supply chain data, fragmented data means that they're coming from multiple sources. And there is no standard structure to organize them. And the second issue or the challenge, which is type of the data related, is quality of data. We all know that, I mean, once we are working with supply chain data, we identify lots of or see lots of inconsistency, or we're dealing with a poor quality data. So, and the pain is that you don't realize such kind of inconsistency until you run the analytics. Means that after you run analytics, get the result, you see that there was some inconsistency, you need to back to the source of data, and you go through the time-consuming loop.
Right.
So yeah, and going to the resource related, so the companies these days are lacking skill resources to integrate supply chain data. So for every project that we were going for the supply chain digitization running, so we were dealing or having a multidisciplinary team from IT, finance, operations, supply chain, because you need all of these skill resources to sit together and understand data and somehow transfer the data or integrate them to make them ready to run the analytics.
Right.
So yeah, I would say that these data related and resource related are the big challenges, is creating such kind of gap between the awareness and capability for companies these days.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's spot on. I mean, we hear countless examples here over at Bastion Consulting just around, the investment in digital transformation or new systems or new implementations, and that that data migration from an old system to a new system, and then the capacity to analyze it as well. And if you've got poorly structured data or inconsistently structured data, it can make it really challenging. Tell us some of the benefits and solutions the supply chain industry can expect from Lagrange.AI. What are some of the outcomes you're hoping to achieve with this product?
Yeah, sure. I would say that there are two main capabilities with Lagrange.AI. And first, or the most important, is the automated data integration, which means that we are using the process mining and AI process mining algorithm and AI techniques to automate the sourcing, collection, and integration of the supply chain data.
Yep.
And the second part, or the second capability, I would say that are those pre-built modules for the supply chain professionals. Because we have the domain knowledge, and using that domain knowledge, we are developing pre-built modules, which supply chain professionals can use it to easily design, develop, and deploy supply chain digital twin. And that's happening in weeks instead of months, which they're doing at the moment, because the data integration is automated, pre-built modules are ready, so they can easily, within maybe short or very fast, develop such kind of supply chain digital twin for the company.
And why do you think there hasn't been such a solution so far? Where did you notice? How did you realize there was a gap in the market for this type of product?
I would say that there are some generic integration solutions, but to be honest, those are time consuming and also costly for supply chain professionals because they require the programming and coding skills.
Right.
So what we are doing with Lagrange.AI is a bespoke integration solution for supply chain professionals. And that's going to be a no-code platform and has the drag and drop feature. So using that, supply chain professionals can easily develop a supply chain digital twin for their company. But the question is that, why has not been developed such kind of bespoke solution before? I would say that there was an urgent need for that before COVID-19, but COVID-19 made a trend towards supply chain digitization.
Right.
And when we are talking about the supply chain digitization, we know that the accessing or having let's say that the seamless data is a must for the successful supply chain digitization process. Yeah, I would say that is about timing. So now is a timing, and market needs such kind of solution or bespoke solution for supply chain data integration.
Yeah, sure. Look, I think we're often talking about COVID was two parts. COVID was the final nail in the coffin for moving into an e-com world, but now in the e-com world, there's no going back. And certainly from an investment perspective, in terms of supply chains, they're not having the right digital or physical infrastructure to be able to cope with some of the challenges, and now you're seeing the investment in physical assets or digital solutions in supply chain, and that's hence why everyone in supply chain, whether it be talent sourcing or just investment consulting and software company, everyone's incredibly busy at the moment. Let's go back to some of the unique and key capabilities of Lagrange.AI. What could a leading supply chain professional or business executive expect to leverage through you guys?
I would say that the first is live connectors. So what we have as a components, I would say that there are 4 main components on Lagrange.AI platform. First is a live connectors, which will connect to the management system or supply chain point solutions to collect data. And then we are moving to the process mining module or component, which the role of this component is to extract the supply chain relevant data. Means that all of this data which are coming from management system or companies are recording does not, they are not relevant to supply chain. And for example, if you want to run network optimization, we know that we need some certain type of data like a customer location, shipment, product. So this is a job of process mining to extract the relevant data which is required for each type of analytics. And the next module is supply chain reference model. Means that using the, again, domain knowledge that we are having in supply chain, we are building or developing some pre-built modules, and using that pre-built modules, we can reach to the reference model. And again, that reference model will help for the quality assurance of data. So yeah, I would say that the live connectors and process mining algorithm, which is making the automated data integration, and those pre-built modules are the main feature. And at the end, all of this will help to reach to the magic part of the platform, which we name it as a structured supply chain data warehouse. So it's a kind of data warehouse which stores clean data and ready to analyze data. So every time supply chain professionals needs the analytics, so they can quickly, easily connect to this data warehouse and remove that time-consuming part of the data integration, which usually is taking 60 to 70% of the time for each project.
Yeah, right. Okay. I mean, that logically, just the silly supply chain recruiter on the sideline here, but that makes a ton of sense to me.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I did want to ask you too was just about being an entrepreneur, especially in supply chain software. I mean, even my experience, I have a few business partners over the last kind of 2 or 3 years. We've tried a couple concepts to get off the ground, and it's a lot harder than it looks. Any advice in anyone, looking to start up a new, software company or tech and supply chain, or anyone looking to get into this kind of entrepreneurial environment? What are some of the lessons you learned in the last couple of years?
Yeah, first of all, if you are a startup, you're a founder who are working on supply chain idea, and you're doing this in Australia, we said that you're working on the right idea at the right time, at the right place. So when I entered to the startup ecosystem was 5 years ago, and that was when I was in Singapore. At that time, Australia was not hub like what it is right now for the founder and investors. And these days, Australia startup ecosystem is one of the fastest growing globally. So definitely, and we also talk about the supply chain ideas, okay, how market needs such kind of solution. So if you're in that field, if you're working on a supply chain idea, for sure you are working on the right idea at the right time in the right place in Australia. But one of the maybe lesson that I learned being in this ecosystem for last 5 years, and I would like to share, is that always open your mind to new ideas. Doesn't matter, no matter how silly they are. So you will see that lots of unicorns, lots of game-changing platform or product are coming from there or starting from the silly idea. So never give up, and keep in mind to open to new ideas in this field.
We're talking about supply chain visibility and resiliency. I think resilience is probably one of the biggest traits any kind of founders or entrepreneurs need to have, right? I think it's never stops. It's you gotta have some thick skin, I think, is what we experienced.
Exactly.
And look, the last thing I wanted to talk, and obviously naturally this relates to us at Bastion Consulting in terms of talent and recruitment and things like that. So we're often talking about, the constraints around talent. I think the market conditions are such that there is definitely an issue with supply at the moment. There is an employment market where candidates are, I wouldn't say greedy, I just think they recognize their value. And so they are certainly leveraging that to the best they can, is probably a polite way of saying it. And it's creating an environment where salary expectations are escalating exponentially. There's not enough talent to go around, especially around anything transformationally or innovation or implementation or creation, whether it be software, technology, or even just like physical logistics networks as an example. It's making it a bit of a challenge. What are you seeing as some of the talent constraints in supply chain? What do you think of when I talk about this?
Yeah, it's great because we're also suffering these days as we are hiring for the startup that we have. And definitely, there's a severe shortage for the talents in field of supply chain. And yeah, as you mentioned, is a good news for the talents in this market, which they can go around for shopping for higher salaries, but creates a really worries for the companies.
Yeah.
And what I realize, or I believe, that shortage, especially for the supply chain field, is not related to the normal supply chain professionals. When I say that normal, so I'm talking about the skill sets, okay? So what I see, that shortage is mainly about the professionals who have a combined experience and knowledge about supply chain and data analytics.
Yep.
So that is the kind of part that we are having or facing shortage in market for the supply chain. And that data science skills, data analytics are the main part of the skill set that we are having shortage at the moment. And yeah, same. I mean, same for all the companies, as we also a startup these days are hiring for those professionals and talents. So yeah, we definitely are feeling and suffering from that shortage as well.
Oh, look, it's a good, okay, you know, it's funny, even just talking about our desk, you know, I've been in this for 11 years now in search. And when I first got into it, the hardest thing to do was to get the job on, to get the assignment from the client to fill the role. Now it's the polar opposite. Now there's clients calling us every day saying we need help, which is fantastic, right? We're lucky we have such a good client base and a good network. But now the challenge is filling the roles. It's taking us a lot longer. So, and I do think your point around traditional supply chain roles in terms of operations, those aren't easy to fill, but they're easier to fill is probably a nicer way of saying it. But it's the meld of operational understanding combined with digital skills. That's the kind of holy grail, right? There's just not enough of them. People who understand what it is to work in a warehouse combined with digital skills, or understand processes around freight forwarding or demand planning or supply planning or whatever the case may be, combined with digital skills. That's where the gap is right now, because of all the investment that wants to be made into upgrading digital infrastructure and supply chain, and there's just not enough people who can blend the two. And so that's where we're really struggling, and those skills are in high demand. So if you're a candidate listening to this and you should probably go ask your boss for a raise, because you can probably get it. So, but look, on that note, Hassan, I wanted to thank you again for coming on. We'll end it here today. For those all watching, love to hear your feedback. Leave your comments, questions in the comment section below. Feel free to reach out to Hassan directly if you want to learn more about Lagrange.AI. If you're potentially a supply chain leader who's interested in learning about their capability, highly suggest you reach out to Hassan as well. Great guy to chat to. But yeah, thanks again for tuning in, and I hope everyone has a great day. Talk to you later. Cheers.
Thank you.